UX, UI field, branding, and just like digital stuff. And yeah, at the side, I also do a bit of like augmented reality development as well. So that's also one thing that I'm passionate in. Oh, so would say what emoji would
Yeah.
represent me? Yeah, I would say for me is that laughing emoji
Oh
with a
yeah. Cry
at the
face.
side. Yeah, so that will represent me because yeah, I think I use that a lot more times than I could remember. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that one's a classic. I use that a lot too. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that introduction. And I guess without further ado, I'll now hand it over to you, Sarah, to start your workshop whenever you're ready.
All right, cool. I'll just get to share my screen a little bit. All right. Cool. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see it.
Great. Let me just control this for a bit. Yeah. All right. So yeah, hi, and thanks for everyone for like joining in on a Saturday like afternoon and to learn more about branding, more about like UI and also what goes behind the process. So how we are gonna do about this is that we're gonna have like a short presentation and then afterwards I've kind of created a template where you guys can like go on to your own like branding process and just yeah, learn more about visual things, like things that go behind the visuals as well. So yeah, a lot of things to cover today, which I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, as a more in-depth introduction before, my name is Sarah Tan. And last time I used to go to RMIT to study. So I studied in Melbourne and I did a major in communication design. And after graduation, I moved to Sydney where I worked for Google as their visual designer. And after that, I kind of went more into like agencies and went into like finance as well. So CommBank as a UI UX designer. And right now I'm just like an independent freelancer, usually working on like UX UI projects and also some branding projects. And most of my clientele is also in big tech. So I also freelance for Facebook and Adobe at the side for visual design stuff. And yeah, like I mentioned before, I graduated from communication design, which is primarily a graphic design course. So yeah, I totally understand if like you guys find the struggle to like transition into a UX UI space. And yeah, after in the Q&A, we'll be happy to answer those questions you have. And yeah, basically my process and my journey have been mainly like visual and just going like deeper to the UX side of things as well. So yeah, let me just control this. So just to have like a rough idea on who's attending right now, like, yeah, if you guys like resonate with any of these majors, like feel free to react so I kind of know like what kind of skill level you're at or what kind of major you're from. So yeah, if you want, feel free to just like react and I can see. Cool, nice. Quite a lot of, yeah, quite a lot of business majors here. Ooh, design major as well. Nice. Nice, that's good. It's good to have a good idea who's in the room. Oh, another business major, nice. Oh, nice. A lot of business people here. Nice, that's great. Yeah, I think it's good to have a rough idea on where you're at, and it's good because I feel like this talk I focus on these three main aspects: design, business, and also IT. So yeah, I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to. All right, so thanks for your reactions, and I'll just go straight into it. So since this is like a branding workshop, I'll probably start off with what is a brand in general. And there's often a lot of misconceptions about brand. And usually when you ask a lot of people have different ideas on what a brand is as well. Some people think that a logo is a brand. Some people think that a brand is just like purely visual. like could be a gut feeling you have towards a brand as well. Like for example, if I just say Apple, probably there's one thought that comes on in your head, so it's a feeling. And also like some people also think that, oh, I'm just a small business and a brand is usually for large companies. So yeah, like there's a lot of variations of what people think, and also there's a lot of like misconceptions around branding. So to sum it up really like succinctly, I feel like a brand is a sum of all expressions by which an entity intends to be recognized. And this entity is not necessarily a company or a small business. It could also be a person, an organization, business unit, even like cities and nation, like Sydney, Melbourne, Australia, they all have their own branding as well. So yeah, it's good to kind of like think about like outside the company sphere, although like I feel like businesses are quite easily associated in this point. But yeah, it's also good to think about like how can I apply this branding workshop to my personal brand as well to be recognized by my future employers, or how do I want to portray myself as a talent in the market. So yeah, and one thing to bring in mind is also is a sum of expressions. So I feel like a brand is a very like big umbrella term. So yeah, like a big umbrella term in a lot of like aspects. And here are some examples that I pulled out. And you can often see that brands are like pretty unified, like they have a very like consistent color scheme, very consistent like typography. Like once you see each of this image, you immediately get a feel of their company and what they do. So yeah, so in my mind, I feel like a good way to categorize a brand is that brand is a very big umbrella, and these are the main elements under the umbrella. So you have like design, logo, and identity, which is the visual side. And brand could go deeper as well in terms of advertising, marketing, and PR is also a big type of a brand. So how the company communicate to its customers, how like they respond to their customers, or how they just like put on social media copy, that is part of the brand as well. And there's a lot so like a deeper part of branding, which is the strategy, the value that they want to portray, and also the trust. So to kind of like wrap it all up, brand is a very big umbrella, and it's basically about how you want to be recognized by the public or how you want to perceive by others. And yeah, there's a lot of like things that go into it, and it really depends on where you are. Like let's say if you're a consumer looking at a business, you probably like look at them for their logos, their social media posts, the way they write their copy. And that's how you kind of associate their brand with like their visuals. And that's also business to business as well. So like how you want to portray yourself as a reputable business to other businesses. So yeah, in general, it's just like how you perceive something. And I think that's a good way to kind of like think about moving forward, because like a brand could be anything. And honestly, like because it's such a big umbrella, there's a lot of like aspects that you have to think about and also be involved in. But it's also okay if you like specific part of the brand. So some people tend to focus more on the visual part, some people tend to focus on like advertising, marketing, or like the strategy part. So yeah, since we're all from different majors today, we just like keep in mind that like whichever you're interested in is totally okay, because brand is a big umbrella. So yeah, and now that I've kind of like explained what's a brand in a very like general term, now I'll probably like show you guys why is a brand so important. So like I said before, brand is not only visual, but it touch a lot on the business side as well. So the first one is it's good for business. It's good for like revenue generation, like profits and those kind of stuff. It also helps you stand out among competitors. So let's say you're in like the makeup industry, it helps you like stand up across like other makeup brands. And it also helps to build a loyal customer base. And I feel like this is very important because like if you have no customers, you won't have a business, because like if nobody's buying your product, then you run out of business. So yeah, so I think this three is like really like important to like gel well together. And I'll just like go into each one of them now. So the first one is it's good for business because like there's a lot of like study that goes into this, and they realize that consistent branding or presentation of a brand has seen to be increased, like have seen like an increase in revenue by 33%. So yeah, so this proves that, you know, having a consistent brand, having like investment in how you look to the public can increase your revenue, which is always important for a business. And secondly, like relating to that, it also helps you stand out among competitors. So this example that I have here is just like basically chocolate brands that you find in a supermarket. And this is what you call like a competitor analysis, where you have like 4 aspects. And basically like if you want to enter in the candy bar industry, you can like map out where the other people are in terms of like what kind of value they bring, what kind of like whether they're exotic, whether they're traditional, whether they're mature. So yeah, a lot of like companies out there do this before they enter into the market. And I feel like branding could come into this because like if you map it out like this, you can see where it's like where there's most like saturation, which is in this quadrant. And then you can also see where is lacking in the market and where's the gap in the market. So yeah, I feel like having this and also having like branding in mind, you can, you know, maybe come up with a totally different color. Like let's say we can see here that yellow and red is most used among like all these candy bar wrappers and packaging. Maybe you can just like disrupt the industry by putting like a green or like a purple packaging. And yeah, immediately you're just like stand out among the rest, and like people remember you as, oh, the candy bars that's purple in color. So yeah, like little things like that, like design could influence a business and how you sit in the market as well. So it's always good to like do activities like this if you want to like find out whether this is the right market for you to go into. And yeah, thirdly, I think it's quite obvious that a brand yeah, it's quite obvious to kind of show that a brand could build a loyal customer base. And I'm sure that most of us are like customers before. We buy things online, we buy things like in supermarkets and everything. So yeah, like basically a good brand can build trust with the consumers. And also like if you're business to business, it can build trust towards like clients and other customers as well in terms of the business space. And basically a memorable branding can get recognized and known to customers, promoting like brand loyalty. So for example, taking like Sephora and like Lush, it's like judging by their social media presence, like you can basically tell them both apart really quickly. So yeah, little things like that where I think most of us have found in our personal life and purchasing decisions, that we find that we tend to like go
The
to
green is so yellow.
like go towards a certain direction to a brand. So yeah, like it's good to think about the customers as well, because like I say, if there's no customers, then there's no business and revenue coming in. So on top of that, like although the business side is important, I feel like the design part in branding is really important as well. So here are some stats that I really like and I pulled out. And firstly, it's like it takes about 0.5 seconds for someone to form an opinion about your website. And I feel like that could translate into your brand as well. So I feel like your brand has this really like strong like influence towards like people's first impression about you. And I feel like if you don't nail your brand well, like probably in the first second, they will decide whether to like purchase or not, or basically like dig deeper into your business. So it's really important to form that first impression. And secondly, using a signature color can increase brand recognition by 80%. And I feel like brand recognition is very important here in this industry, especially it's so like competitive. You have so many businesses out there fighting for your attention. So yeah, like later on in the branding activity, I can kind of tell you more about colors. But yeah, so basically like usually a brand would have a signature color, and that's how they increase their recognition in the industry. And the third one is 45% of customers expect great design across marketing and sales. So yeah, I think us as consumers, we really like look at design and like marketing and what they put up in their social media and website to like make that decision. So yeah, personally, like I'm really like a sucker for like good design, and if they like really have good design, I'm more inclined to like purchase their product. So yeah, and on like saying all this like design stats, I feel like branding is also more than just making things look pretty. So like I said, there's a lot of like misconception about branding before that. A lot of people think that it is purely visual, and basically like to make a brand, the visual is only like the tip of the iceberg, and below the iceberg there has like a very like complex kind of like system of like knowing what exactly is working for your brand. So like I said before, like branding is really important because like of the audience, of the customers. And I feel like if you don't really know your audience and customers well to appeal to them, basically like you probably won't have a brand that they could relate to, and therefore like have like help them make the decision to like purchase your product. So apart from like the visual side of things, there's also like a lot of things at the bottom where you do research, competitor analysis, like what I did with the candy bar earlier, like A/B testing, which is like having like two target markets and also testing which target market is more receptive to your brand, like focus groups, interviews, and like a lot of strategy and business goals. And because usually businesses don't go through like branding that often. Like for example, like Apple, like you recognize them as their Apple logo, and for them to come up with a whole rebrand, like you gotta like onboard the customers all over again to recognize your new branding. So there's a lot of like thoughts about what your business want to achieve in the long term and also longevity of the brand. So having a brand that lasts like generations to come, or like yeah, be relevant still in like 10 years time, that's like really important for a brand. So yeah, just to kind of like show you guys that branding does have the visual aspects, but also have like the whole big of like whole chunk of like research, experimentation aspects to it as well. So yeah, it's just not only like making things look pretty. And yeah, just to summarize like what we said like earlier, so branding is the sum of all expressions. So it's like the umbrella term for a lot of things like visual, non-visual, strategy, marketing, PR, all this kind of stuff. And branding is good for business to increase your revenue, to stand out among competitors so you don't drown out in the market and just stay competitive in the market, and also to build a loyal customer base. So because if you don't have a customer, then you don't have a business. And lastly, design matters in branding, but a lot goes into the branding process as well in terms of making a design that's effective for you. So moving on, let's see. Yeah, so basically like to kind of help you get started, and for this second part of the workshop, I've created a template that kind of incorporates a lot of things that we've talked about. And yeah, so we can like talk about it more when we go to the template, but I'll just probably like share a link in the chat. Let me just see, how do I share a link? Let's see. Okay, chat, yes. Okay, cool. Great. Let me just paste a link. So yeah, if those who doesn't have an a Figma account yet, I think it'll be good to kind of create one now because it's a free account and we'll be using Figma to, yeah, basically do the next activity. So yeah, let me just. Yeah, so what I've basically done is that I created a template in Figma and I created it public to the community to use. So all you can do is just like sign up for an account, it's free, and you can go into the link that I just put into the chat and hit duplicate at the top right corner of like there's the little like button called duplicate, and basically it just gives you a copy of the template. And what's good is that if you duplicate it, like basically it's just yours to change. You can't like basically what you do in it doesn't reflect to what everyone has as well. So like just feel free to like go crazy on the template. Like nobody's gonna see it but you unless you want to show it. So yeah, just feel free and whatever's comfortable with you. So yeah, I'll probably give a minute for everyone to kind of like duplicate the file, sign up for an account, and yeah, just let me know in the chat once you're ready and we can go ahead to the template. So yeah, feel free to shout out or ask in the chat if you stumble upon anything as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, so while you guys are still being onboarded into this, like just a little like disclaimer that this template is just quite simple and it's just adapted into this workshop style format. So this template that I made, I have in mind of like someone who basically has like it's no like definite major, just anyone can do it if they know like basic skills in Figma. And if you don't worry, I'll just like walk through it as well so you guys can just follow along. So yeah, basically I created this template with no prior skills needed. So you don't need to know like design, marketing, or just anything beforehand. And yeah, I just made this for like university students, like early startup founders, just anyone interested to create a brand quickly. So yeah, just to like get things running. And you can also see that there's a lot of like helper cards for you to like, if you see some words that resonate with you, you can like put inside too. But yeah, basically just hoping to get this as simple as possible. And because of that, like it doesn't really compromise like, yeah, it doesn't really contain the whole branding process because like branding process would take like way longer to do and way longer to kind of like process and to get an efficient brand up, it takes like probably months to do. So this is just like a quick like nice branding process for you to like get used to it. And like, yeah, if you want to create like a quick brand, this will be a fun way for you to do as well. Nice. How we give it like a minute. It's great. Can see in the chat that some people already have it. Nice. Yeah, and just if you're waiting, just feel free to like react. So if a majority of us have already like ready, have everything ready, I'll just like get it started now. Nice. Thanks, guys. All right. I guess we can get started, which is good. Yeah, and feel free to like basically yeah, say anything or like just like type anything in the chat if you want me to slow down on certain process, and yeah, we can keep a close eye on it so nobody gets to like be left behind. So yeah, great. I'll just get started now. So like, I think a good way to start off is that I'm not too sure where everyone is at right now, but you know, maybe you could have a side project that you always wanted to have like branding on, or if you have like a uni assignment that you want to have a quick branding like created. So this is quite open to whatever brand that you want to make. It could be like any industry you want, any product you want, or yeah, just like any like services providers, could be anything, could not even be a business as well, it could be even like branding for yourself. So yeah, just to keep that in mind, and basically it's all good for you to choose. But I think to make things simpler, like I'll probably like start with a hypothetical brand that I want to achieve. So yeah, maybe I can, well, one thing that came out from the top of my mind is that I can probably start creating a brand for a millennial budgeting app. Let's say like a millennial like budgeting app where I can like teach millennials how to manage their money. So that's my hypothetical brand. And yeah, feel free to basically like adapt it to your own and also like choose whatever brand you want, because yeah, also could be a good exercise if you want to like always like make a brand for something. And yeah, you don't have to follow me, but just having a yeah hypothetical thing that I'm doing right now. So yeah, like if you can see here, there's like start here, and you can pinch your trackpad to zoom in and out. So here I am zooming in and out, and I'm moving my, kind of like using my fingers. Not sure what like laptop are you guys using, but I'm using a Mac. So I'm using like two fingers to navigate around on my trackpad as well. So yeah, whatever works best for you. You can use a mouse or anything. So yeah, and I'll just probably go to the first step now. So like what I mentioned before, your customer and your audience is really important to kind of like have in mind to build a brand for. Because like I say, if you have no customers, you have no business. And if you don't have a specific primary target market in mind, then you can't really like design a branding specific to them. So like specific in targeting them. So what I like to do first is just really like nail out what's my primary target market. And I understand that a lot of businesses have like a lot of target markets everywhere. But yeah, the main reason why I say primary is because like maybe this make up like most of your customer base, and maybe like this is the largest percentage of audience you want to target. So yeah, it's always good to like hit your first preference and then yeah, see your other preference. But I'm just gonna start off with a singular primary target market for now. So yeah, I think this is a good like simple system where you can see this is an activity to find out who's your target market is. And I have this, my brand is for your probably like gender, mainly for, and then your age group, who are, and their main characteristics or like lifestyle. So if let's say like you're stuck, you can always scroll at the bottom where it says like a little help, and you can see this like pre-made cards that I've made. So like gender, female, male, like 50-50, age group, like kids, teens, young adults, middle-aged, seniors. And these are basically like quite generic characteristics that I've thought of that really like drives their purchasing decisions and power. So yeah, like their lifestyle is really important in terms of coming up with a brand as well. So if let's say like I'm targeting young adults who are busy and time poor, like I would want my brand to be as direct as possible, because like I wouldn't expect that they will have time to like dive into a brand or business and just have everything direct to them. It's good because they're time poor. So yeah, like these are the things where you can keep in mind of if you have a target market in mind. So like I said before, I'll probably make a budgeting app for millennials to teach them how to manage their money. So I could say that my brand is for like male and female even split. So if you want to like use the cards below, you can basically like click on them and they're like grouped, and you can just like hold it and drag it up. Yeah, like drag it up here. And basically, yeah, you can just put it here where it relates to you. Or if you feel like none of the answers below relates to your brand, you can basically double click to edit. So click and then double click. And then basically you can start like type out your preference. So yeah, since I'm using the card, I'll just probably like put it on top here for like simplicity. Yeah, and this is for you to like play around as well. So don't worry if anyone's gonna judge, like no one's gonna judge here. So yeah, it's all for you. And yeah, so like I say, I want to target millennials. So I feel like it really fits into the young adults category for now, because like they will be like earning their own money, and I just assume that they need budgeting help because like most of them are like probably fresh grads and they just wanna learn how to manage their money. So I'm just gonna put it here as well. Yeah, and if this is a bit too like wide for you, like I can just like delete it as well. So make it simpler and neater. And like I say, I want like millennials who are young adults who most probably have a job already to manage their finance from. So I'll probably like label them as like busy and time poor because yeah, I think they're like starting out their new roles as fresh grads, and I guess they're like really like, you know, committed to making a good impression in their workplace. So I'll just say busy, time poor. And yeah, like basically like what I'm doing now is that I am making assumptions. So yeah, making assumptions is good to start off, but targeting this target market, it'll be better if you can put more research into it. Or if you want to go one step further, find people who are exactly in this category and just have like interviews with them to see what influenced them, what like they are motivated by, to just have a clearer idea on what you want to target. And yeah, just a little explanations on my choices below as well. Like conscious consumers is that I kind of label them as people who are very conscious about what they're buying. So they could be like very passionate in like climate change matters, and they want to like choose sustainability options. So yeah, like some people really drive their lifestyle to create an impact in this world. So that's why I kind of like put them as conscious consumers, where maybe in your brand you have to be a little bit more like transparent about who you choose as your suppliers, what materials you use, whether they are sustainable or not. So yeah, conscious consumers, driven by convenience. Like I could kind of relate this to the time poor as well. So I'll probably like put this on top too. Like people who are driven by convenience are people who just like want things quick, want things convenient, something as simple as possible, and that would be like the best for them. So it's good in terms of like thinking how you want to like put your info out, whether you want to just have like quick, simple, done, or you want to have this like long process of like sign up and those kind of stuff. And value centric, I would say it's very centric is also more in terms of like what value they embody. So for example, like with Thank You Water, they are quite popular for donating some of their profits and revenues to like people who need it. So it's also like the value like centric of it, where you buy something, you help someone out, and yeah, every brand have different values, so it just depends on what you support and what aligns to your personal values. So yeah, I kind of have like a basic target market demographic here, like kind of have something to work with. But of course, like if you want to dig deeper, there are like a lot of different stuff you can consider as well. For example, like location, like where are they? Are they in the suburbs? Are they in the city? That means a lot in terms of like how you want to like market to them, and what kind of like phones they have, what kind of like accessibility they have. Are they near to a shops? Are they not? That kind of stuff. Like income level is important in terms of like you want to like price the product to price it in a way that they can afford it. Yeah, so whether they have a family, whether they're like in a certain occupation, like ethnicity as well. So yeah, different like people like perceive things differently, and how they buy things differently as well is different depending on cultures. So it's good to like dig into that. And yeah, interests, hobbies, lifestyle, behaviors, those are kind of like things to think about if you really want to go deep. And it'll be good to like have all this fleshed out, so I feel like the rest of your business decisions will be easier, like pricing, like where you want to stock your items, like those kind of stuff like really matters as well, depending on who your target market is. So yeah, just lots to think about, but so far I have this simple thing to kind of move forward. So I'm just gonna leave it as that. And yeah, gonna leave it as that. And like, if you guys are ready, I'm just gonna like probably dive in a little bit on the next step, because I feel like it's quite similar to the first step. So yeah, just like let me know if I'm too fast, and I'll just like go ahead for now. Yeah, and I can like slow down to give you more like Figma like tips on how to use the program in terms of like dragging things around, editing things. Yeah, just let me know in the chat if you want me to go back to it. So yeah, I'll just like go to the second step now, where it's very relevant to the first step. So the first step, I identified like who I want to target to. And the second step is like basically what do I think would resonate well with my target market? So how would my like, how do I create a brand that would resonate with my target market that I just created, like a simple profile of them? And usually I feel like what make things simple is to change things to adjectives. So adjectives such as like, like trusting, happy, positive, dynamic, bold, that kind of stuff. So yeah, feel free to kind of add in your own adjective if you have something like this comes out in mind. But at the bottom, like before, I kind of prepared a bunch of adjectives for you to use. And I covered like quite a big amount of area. So yeah, if you can't find something you're looking for specifically, feel free to just like Google online like dictionary or like synonyms to like find one that works for your brand. So yeah, what I have here are a big kind of like an umbrella term, and then like little terms at the bottom that is synonym to the main like adjectives. So I have like trusting, joyful, bold, extra, wise, classy, calm, unique, adorable. So yeah, these things is like, depending on your brand, you can like say that maybe like thinking that I'm doing a financial app, I feel like trust is a very big component in this, because it involves like money, it involves like, yeah, like finances are so important, and I'm trusting you to like give me good advice. So right off the bat, I know that trust is a big element in this. So I'm just gonna drag it, and feel free to just like drag it on top, or like just change it if you want to. Yeah, so basically what I'm doing is just like thinking about what words would resonate with my target audience and kind of work from there. So yeah, I think like budgeting app, millennials, and I already have trusting. Maybe I can have something like a calm experience as well. Because I understand that like financials can be quite stressful. So I kind of want to have this like calm feeling for them to kind of like know that, you know, financials don't have to be very stressful and you can just like be calm towards the whole process. So yeah, and this comes a lot with like researching about your target audience and knowing what they want. So if you kind of find that they're like often very stressed about it, that kind of paralyze them to like make any financial decisions, you can combat it with another adjective that could help them make it more easier for them. So yeah, I will choose calm. And for my third one, maybe I'll probably target the busy and time poor aspect because I feel like that's important too. So yeah, it really depends on which type of things you want to pay attention to. If you want to pay attention to your age group more, feel free to do so. If you want to like pay attention to their gender, because if you're marketing a product for females, like a female product, quite feminine, you would need to like keep that in mind as well to think of what appeals to like females buyers or like male buyers as well. So yeah, I think what I'm doing here is basically trying to hit all like gender, age group, and characteristics. So I probably choose like bold for my third adjectives because like as I mentioned before, they're like time poor. I just want to have everything like straight on their face so they know what they're getting into while they see my brand. Yeah. So yeah, I have like these three adjectives and like I feel like it really depends on you if you want to create more description or adjectives if you want to. But I feel like once it gets a bit too much, like you tend to like not really know how to prioritize which adjectives or like description to like go on to. Like I feel like, you know, joyful, classy, like wise is also a very good like positive attribute to have. But I feel like if you have too much, it might be a bit hard for you in the future to like focus on a lot of aspects as one. So it's either you come up with an umbrella term to describe what you're into or what you want to achieve, or yeah, just like have like little words like this that's like short, straightforward, and it just like makes you like, okay, this is what I want my brand to be, and go on from there. So yeah, basically, yeah, there's a lot of like branding, how to say, like web pages that like have all these branding adjectives ready for you in the list. So it's like, yeah, with a quick Google, you can find them. And if you're like, if you lack inspiration, you can just like go through the list and see what resonates with you. So yeah, I'll probably give like a few seconds in case you're thinking about your descriptions. Yeah, so yeah, I'm just reviewing what I have right now. And yeah, how I basically designed this is that you go through step by step, but the next step, you have to rely on your answers in the previous step. So yeah, that's how I'm doing it for now. So yeah, I really feel like the reason why I kind of put this step in the template is because I feel like it's quite important to have like a word to encompass your brand in the beginning. So for example, some words are quite telling, like adorable. Like once you put adorable in your template, or if you want to choose that word, it's quite telling on what decisions you're going to make afterwards. like obviously you're gonna make decisions that are like, okay, I definitely want my brand to look adorable, like very like pastel-y colors, very colorful, very friendly looking. And like if you're targeting like more like high-end fashion, high-end like jewelry, you choose like something like classy. And I feel like that's very telling on the decisions you make later as well, like making everything simple, very classy, like yeah, very like white, very clean, like Apple or like Tiffany and Co, that kind of brands. So yeah, I think it's just a good activity to kind of get you thinking about the next step. And I'm sure like as us as consumers as well, like once we see these words, we'll just automatically have something in mind because of it, like bold. I'm like, okay, yeah, bold, very strong colors, strong fonts. So yeah, it's good to kind of like build out that visual narrative of a brand that you want to choose. And let me know if I'm going too fast or you have any Figma like technical problems. But I'm just gonna go to my third step because I feel like the third step might take a little bit more time depending on how detailed you want to be. So yeah, like basically my third step is to see your answers in the first two steps, and especially on the second step, like what I have: trusting, calm, and bold. And now it's time for you to basically like bring together a mood board to represent those descriptions, like I said before. So yeah, basically I feel like a mood board is good because you can kind of like save things online, like things that resonates with you or the branding you want to achieve. Just like save it into your computer and just paste it in Figma, because it's kind of like it's good for you to sometimes think of something like, oh, okay, I like that graphic and I'm just going to use that as inspiration. So yeah, it's also sometimes good for you to take words into visual as well and put like some visual elements to like help support the direction you're going for. So yeah, personally, I'm quite a visual person, and I really like to basically, before I start anything, could be like a UI UX project, could be a branding, could be graphic design, I will often save like a board of inspiration where I can refer to. So yeah, this really helps you like anchor into your vision. And basically like it'll be good if you can anchor those into the adjectives that you've chosen. So yeah, so you don't go like too overboard. And it's okay if you find visuals that you like but doesn't fit into the adjectives as well, because you can always go back and change it. So yeah, like I feel like visual is also an important element to like take in mind of while you create a brand. And yeah, so like I say, like it's purely visual inspirations. So also be careful if you save something that belongs to another brand, like just be careful not to like replicate it too much, or that would kind of like get you into like quite some hot water into like copyright issues and like plagiarism. So yeah, just keep in mind that is purely like visual inspiration and just something you can base off of. And to kind of help you with the type of images you want to search for, I have some inspiration here that I think are really good mood boards. So it's hard to like choose a picture where you're like, okay, like where should I start searching? And I feel like a good place to start could be like photographs, because that's not very specific. That's like quite generic. You can just choose a like lifestyle shoot or a shoot that resonates with your like color palette or your adjectives that you chose. And I could just like quickly go through the inspirations here that I have. So the first one is obviously like Nike, Adidas kind of vibe, where it is like very fitness, very dynamic, like looks very sporty, looks like yeah, very active gear kind of type. So you're into that, just like, yeah, you can look for like font inspirations like this one, like patterns inspiration, or like even like photographs where like, this gives me a very like elite, very, very fit, very aesthetic, but still like fitness, active wear, kind of like industry-ish. So yeah, it really depends. So this is very geared towards like fitness. Like here's obviously very geared towards like cutesy, adorable, like I mentioned before. Like if your target market is like majority female as well, or like female teens, I think these are something that they will like. So very pastel-y, very like cutesy, very like, yeah, very aesthetically pleasing in a very like light and light-hearted way. So yeah, and the next one that I have is more like modern, classy look. So yeah, you can even like find inspiration in like furnitures that you see could resonate well with your brand. Anything will do, although it doesn't relate to your product. I think it's just good to like get it out there and like, oh no, somehow I don't know why, but I relate to this chair. So it's good to like put there. It could not be the chair, it could be like the color palette, could be the contrast, like, yeah, anything that comes to your mind, just feel free to like save it and paste it there. So yeah, this more modern and obviously more like muted, more like not really in your face, quite like subtle in a way, but still quite high fashion vibe. And yeah, this is basically like very like bluish, like you can you can like immediately think about like what they're trying to achieve, very like flowy, like, yeah, very blue, very calm kind of feeling. Yeah, very like, swirly whirly, quite light-hearted, quite like, free form. And this inspiration is kind of more like, powerful, very in your face, like red and like orange is very like alert. So it just wants to like get your attention. So yeah, like any kind of like photos could even be like, yeah, some firefighters with like Star Wars characters photos, or like, an app, an icon, anything that resonates with you. And I also have like two links here where you can search for images that works well for you. So if let's say you don't want to like paste things in Figma and just manually like adjust it, feel free to go to Canva, where they have a like specially made wood board maker. So I think that's a good like option to use as well. If let's say you're not too familiar with Figma, Canva is a good option. And of course, like if you're like a designer or you're like doing design, like seriously, you can also go into like Photoshop if that works for you. And yeah, this is a place to like keep all this inspiration in. And I think what's good about Canva is that they already have some pre-prepared. So if let's say you're struggling right now on like thinking what images to put, you can just go on this link. I think you can just like click on it, and there's like open link here. So you can just go to it and just mismatch things that works well for you. And Pinterest is another good thing to look at as well for inspiration. So yeah, in Pinterest, there's a lot of like brand designers or like just like business in general who likes to market their brand or their artworks through Pinterest. So there's a lot of like branding resources. There's a lot of like aesthetic photographs for you to find in Pinterest. So yeah, if you want, or you have something like specific in mind, you can go to Pinterest and you can just search like what you're into, like adorable pastel colors, or modern classy, or you can just put like trusting and see what comes out. And if it works for you, if you like it, then feel free to like save it. So yeah, these two resources that you have, and basically you can just save anything from fonts to photographs to patterns, even color palettes, like whatever work for you. And a mood board is just basically like a free for all kind of thing where you can just dump inspiration in. So there's no rules or anything, just like feel free to dump anything you like. So I'll probably like start doing mine as well, just like really quickly. Yeah, so basically like, I feel like a mood board is really important because like, it not only helps you as someone who want to create a brand, but what I like to do with my clients is that I would like kind of make a mood board just for them as well. Although like those are assets that I don't make myself, I find it online and I just present it to the client as a mood board. So, because like I feel like a lot of the job being a designer and having a client is that you need to kind of understand what the client wants, like what the clients expect. And I feel like a mood board is just a quick and easy way to like prepare a set of visuals, show it to your client, and the client will just say like, yes, no, this is the vision, like this is the direction that I'm going for. Like they could even say that, oh, I really like this picture, so save it, but everything else has to go. But you still have the anchoring point of like, okay, my client really likes that picture, so I can find something similar to it. And yeah, it's just a process of like back and forth. Like before, like just like using my time to like create visuals like from scratch, I just like doing mood boards as a quick way to like understand what my client wants. So yeah, it's quite like, yeah, quite a well like, yeah, although it's kind of like not yours in a way, but always like keep in mind that these are inspiration, and yeah, just be careful not to like do quite similar to what you find online. So yeah, like I actually have like, so for those who are like interested in Figma, there are some stuff called plugins where you can basically install plugin into your Figma, and you can just like access stuff from your plugin. So yeah, to make things simpler, like there's this really good photography like website called Unsplash, where it's like royalty free and all their photos are really nice. So they have a Figma plugin, and what I like is just like go into the Figma plugin and have this little like Unsplash kind of like generator for me to just like access images without me going to the web, saving it and importing it in. So yeah, just this for like people who are interested in Figma in the future, not, yeah, don't feel pressured to follow along. But yeah, since like I'm in Figma right now, just thought to like compile some images that might work for my target market. So probably I can search like, I don't know, like trust, see what comes out. It's quite cute. Yeah, like trust photos. Yeah, maybe it's a bit generic, so I could like always go back, like probably I can choose bold first because I know what's in my mind when I chose bold. So yeah, this is nice. I actually really like this, like the color scheme of this swimming pool. So I'm just gonna add that in. And yeah, usually with like, if you download this like Unsplash plugin, you can just create a shape, click on it, and just like enter the plugin to select your photos. But yeah, no stress. Like, I feel like you can also go to the website, find the photos you want, and just import it in manually as well. So yeah, maybe bold. Maybe I can like, something like more young, like maybe a bit too young, but yeah, I'm kind of looking for something that would appeal to like millennials. So probably I'll just like you can always switch like different things to search for. Like since I can't really search through like all these lifestyle photos, I'll search something specific like typography. And usually you have this like pretty cool images where I get to have a sense of like what I want the typography to be. what resonates with my brand, or the colors I chose, not really colors, but the adjectives that I chose before. So yeah, I quite like a lot of these things. So let's say like, if I chose bold and trusting, I'm kind of looking for like something quite heavy-ish, like a heavy font, not too like thin. Kind of like this tennis thing, so maybe I might choose it, but actually I kind of like this. I feel like it gives a bit of a vintage vibe. So yeah, like little things like that. Inspiration could come from anywhere. So yeah, don't worry if like, let's say a picture of a chair works for you, a picture of a sky works for you, as long as like the inspiration works for you, then feel free to put it in. But yeah, like probably checking back to the adjectives that I put, probably I'll choose something like calm and just see what comes up. Yeah, and I think if let's say like you're having some difficulty looking at photos, you can always kind of see what's trending. So yeah, that's a good way to kind of guide you to a direction of like, let's say millennials like this kind of design so far. So maybe I could use that for my inspiration, or like I mentioned about standing out from the competition as well. It depends, like maybe you could go for a different direction. So yeah, what I'm doing is just probably finding like a calming photo to get inspiration from. Maybe I'll just choose like a already designed thing to like get inspiration from. So yeah, I kind of like, oh, this stuff is really bold. Kind of like this actually. I feel like it goes to the trust, to the calming, and to the bold as well. So yeah, this immediately like resonates with me. And yeah, I think like this is quite like, probably 3 pictures like this is quite like a few for like a mood board, but I think I'm just gonna go like ahead with these 3 photos. And yeah, like I said, like you can always like go wild on like color schemes already, like font types and all this kind of stuff to get inspiration from. So anything that you like or you think works well for your brand that you already made, just like feel free to drop it in, and you can always stick it out afterwards. It's quite like an iterative process. So you can always go back, like go front again, like, just like, choose things, edit things. And most probably like if let's say you want to go deeper into your branding, after a while, like coming up with an initial brand, maybe like doing some user testing, you realize that it's not like suitable for your brand. So a lot of people also like, go a few steps back, change things, and yeah, it's quite like a back and forth process. So it's all good if let's say you're stuck in one process, maybe you need to go to other process to go back to it. So yeah, all right, I'll probably give you guys a few more seconds because I understand this is quite a heavy task and it really depends on how you find the photos and like if the photos are even appearing for you. Because yeah, with inspiration, it's just like you can spend like hours looking for it, but when it hits, it just hits. So like totally understand if let's say it takes a while to find it. All right. Yeah, I think another thing is that like a mood board is really good. If let's say like you're not a designer, you're like a business person, or you could be at the client side as well, like hiring another designer to create a brand for you, or hiring like an agency to create a brand for you. I feel like a mood board is really good to collate your thoughts. And then like if you have a mood board that you really resonate with, you think that your future brand would like to get the inspiration of this mood board, you can always like send it to a designer, send it to like someone else that could flesh it out for you. But yeah, whether you're the design side or like the business side of things or the strategy like side of things, like you can always like come up with a mood board and just like give it to other people to settle it. But I feel like the other person will have a very good idea on what you want. So I feel like a mood board is always good to kind of put your thoughts into visual things, because like often enough, like if you guys like go back and forth with words and like like descriptions, it's quite hard if there's nothing like anchoring it. So yeah, visuals are always nice. A lot of people would be like visual learners, so it's good to always show that. And yeah, just to like tie it back to like UI UX as well, because I understand there are a lot of like prior events, or also like my background is a lot in UI UX. So I feel like in some sense, like branding is quite similar to UI UX, where you're not designing something to make things look pretty, but you're designing for a certain user or audience to resonate with. So yeah, it's always good to like understand the user as much as possible, and kind of go on from there and thinking what would appeal to the user. So yeah, that's always good like process to go through, because if you have no users for your digital products like the app you just made, your users don't like it, then basically no one's gonna use it. So I think that's enough time, and I feel like I'll probably need to like speed things up a little bit. So feel free to like go back to your mood board if you want to add more pictures, but I'm just gonna go ahead. So basically the next step is where we get really specific into things, but it's not like the end all be all like decision making step. So don't stress too much about getting it right in the first try. Just do things what makes you like like initial thoughts, initial like feelings, and don't be scared to go to this step. It's a little bit daunting, but so this step is where we get to the specifics, into finding out the colors and the fonts, which is a very very big part of a brand. So for about the mood board that I made earlier, basically I'm just gonna get inspired by the mood board I made earlier, basically. So that makes it easier if let's say you want to create a color palette as well. So I'll start with the colors. The reason why I put 4 colors here is because usually a brand have a primary color, which is the color that is like mostly on everything. A secondary color, which is like, you if you only have one color, it's a little bit like, there's nothing to contrast with. So usually brands have like 2 main colors. And other than that, there's 2 other colors that could be like supplementary. So it could not be included in your 2 main colors, but it could also be like part of the coherent picture. So let's say if you want to like create a social media post in the future, like, and you run out of colors, you use the first 2 colors too much. So you use the other color to like kind of like make a coherent picture. And usually a brand have 4 colors. Like too much is like a bit too much, and there's no like consistency in things. So the best is just 4: primary, secondary, and 2 others. And there's a lot of like things that I could go into, like color theory and everything, but basically it'll be good to choose colors that are contrasting to each other. So contrasting by like blue is a cold color, but red is a warm color. So that's what I meant by contrasting. So like cold and warm color, like pink and green, like purple and yellow, those are like opposites. And I think it would be better if I have like a color wheel out, but yeah, there's a lot of like things on color theory. And the reason why people make contrasting colors is because like as humans, we are very attracted to things that don't necessarily like belong together, like contrasting colors. So if your strategy is to like, you know, appeal to the users at first glance, like contrasting colors is always the best to be like, oh, okay, this like is interesting. So yeah, like can't think of a good example right now, but yeah, like, what would be a good example? Yeah, I can't really think of one right now, but yeah, usually brands like to have like blue, yellow, like, you know, that kind of like opposites. So yeah, opposites attract. So like to us, it looks very exciting because they're all in the opposite color. But it's also like part of your strategy to think about whether that works for you. So some people like to go to like complementary colors, which is colors in the same family. So like blue, like dark blue, and then light blue and lighter blue. So it really depends on like what you want to achieve. And to make things simpler, it's also a lot about what adjectives that you chose earlier and what appeals to your target market. So I kind of have this like very simple scale right here where you have the fun to the kind of like serious corporate level. And if you can see, the main difference is that the funner it is, the more colors they are. And then the more serious it is, the like less colors they are, more like grays, more like, you know, singular colors kind of type. And yeah, so this is a very like, very surface level explanation, but basically like just human like psychology, like if you see a lot of like different colors at once, you automatically think that it's like, okay, it's a bit lighthearted, a bit fun. But if it's a bit muted, you always like think that, okay, it's getting a bit serious. So yeah, it really depends on what you want to achieve again. And yeah, some color palettes that you can use, so feel free to use them. And a quick tip is that if you want to change it, you can click on this circle. So I'm selecting this circle right now, and you can press I in your keyboard. So when I press I have this like eyedropper thing. And if you want to make your life simpler, you can just like eyedrop the colors that you chose from your images. So like I really like this like blue and yellowish palette that I found online. So I'm just gonna choose the blue and I'm just gonna choose the yellow. Simple as that. Yeah, just eyedrop tool and you get the same colors. So yeah, like I also like this kind of like vintagey look where it's a bit darker. So I could, you know, eyedrop this dark green and eyedrop this navy blue as well. And in hindsight, it actually looks quite coherent because like the blue and the blue like match together while the the yellow and the green kind of match together as well. So I'm just gonna like quickly rearrange it. So yeah, just simple as that. And yeah, if you already have like a really fleshed out mood board, it really like shows how set you are in terms of the visual direction. So just feel free to like eyedrop tool it. And if you want some like help, you can always like eyedrop tool the colors that I have chosen here as well. So yeah, colors is quite a big thing and it takes a lot of time as a company as well to like decide on colors. So don't get too stressed if let's say it doesn't work for you now. You could always go back to it later. And then I'm just gonna go straight into fonts. So fonts, like colors, less is more. So I feel like if you can like think of something, like if I say like Nike, Apple, Adidas, like there's a certain font that comes to your mind, which is like this type of font, like quite bold, quite like it's not like very like serif type at the bottom here, where it's like very like flary. It's more like clean, straightforward. So yeah, it's good to choose like 2 fonts to keep, and then like that's it. Because I think if you get more fonts, it's gonna look really like inconsistent. So the standard ruling is always like 2 fonts, and mostly a heading and a body font. So yeah, this translates well into like UI UX as well, because usually in UI UX you get like a heading and then the body text, like heading, body text, and just like the different sizes for hierarchy. So to keep things like simpler again, I've kind of made a few like rules around it. So it depends on like, again, the description that you have chosen for your target market, but there are 2 types of main fonts, which is serif and sans serif. So I think obviously you can like tell the difference straight away. Serif has this little like flash up that looks a bit vintage, looks a bit like classy, but sans serif looks like a bit more modern, very clean. And basically the difference is that it just doesn't have this like feet, like flash and lines attached to it. So yeah, that's a good way to get started. And what I like to do usually is just have an either or system going on. So if I make the heading font a serif, I'm gonna make the body text a sans serif because I don't want them to like conflict. And I feel like a contrast is good again. So yeah, I have like this two is a serif, sans serif font. This is a sans serif. Maybe I'll just make it easier, like a cleaner header and a more vintage like body text. And this one is like a vintage like header, but a more like cleaner body text. So I think the good like rule of thumb is that serif fonts, which are this like vintage looking fonts, are slightly more like, as you can see, like flared up. It has more details. So it really depends on the description or like the type of brand you want to make. But usually like you don't want to overwhelm the users too much by having too much things going on. So I usually like to pare it down with a cleaner font to, yeah, make things look more balanced. And basically you can go like a direction where it's like super clean and go like double clean font, and that's it. Or you can also go clean heading and like vintage body text. So yeah, and basically to make things easier again, like there are a lot of like references online where you can just hit a random generator and they'll just give you an answer. And then like if it resonates with your brand, you can just like go ahead and use it. So there's like color combinations online where you can generate, and also like font pairings online where you can just like click generate. And if it works for you, if you think it works for like your brand, then you can just like replicate it. And Google Fonts are good too, because like Google Fonts are free and a lot of people have access to it. So let's say if you're designing a digital product as a UI UX designer, and I think it would be good to have a Google font chosen, because like that shows that like if the developers were to make it, they'll have the font already online for you to use, and like a lot of people have it in their computers. So yeah, these are things to think about, and also of course how legible the font is, which is how clear it is to the eye. So like, for example, there are certain fonts that are super legible, and basically it just lets the users read the words clearly as possible. So yeah, that's on legibility, and there's a lot of like things that go into font pairings as well, but this is just a simple like surface level. And if you want to just do something quick, you can just think of like whether you want a serif or sans serif as your main font. So that could like really like determine the whole like look of your brand already. Like if you want it to look more vintage or like more clean, there's like 2 directions you can start off with. So yeah, I think like basically I'm kind of happy with this font. And like just for a quick like Figma tip, it's same, you can just like double click it when it's all highlighted. you can go to the side here where you can see text. And what I have now is Inter font. So just choose like any font that you like, and yeah, any font that you like from your selection. And if you're not happy with your selection, you can always download free fonts online. So yeah, I think I have a rough idea on what I want for my font. So yeah, I kind of like Inter actually. Maybe like, yeah, I kind of, I'm going for like a bold type of like heading. So I'm gonna make it all caps and have this like really strong font. And like usually my body font, I'm just like, keeping it safe all the time. My main priority is that once the users can read clearly what I want to like, the copy and everything, once they can read clearly and quickly, that works for me. So I really like Inter as a font. So I'm just gonna keep it. And yeah, I'm conscious that I'm running a little bit out of time. So I'm just gonna like whiz through things so that I get like a good like probably 20 minutes to answer your questions in the end, because I feel like that's really important as well. So yeah, again, like this takes a lot of process. Like for a typical branding agency, it takes like a long time to decide on the color and the font. So no stress if you can't like think of one right now. It takes a lot of like inspiration, a lot of like research, but yeah, it's always good to have an initial idea to start off. So yeah, again, just like referencing on your previous steps and seeing if they are coherent so far. And the next step is just like quite a big thing, which I'll just go straight into it, which is logos. So yeah, the reason why I kind of put logo as the last step is because I feel like it is quite important to have a rough idea into the font you want to make in the beginning, because like the font that you choose, the direction, like the adjective that you want to achieve, like the colors really inform the logo a lot. So that's why I kind of left it to the last step, because you can always take what you have progressed so far and just apply it into your logo. So yeah, actually I really like this logo. So like I could just like as simple as that, put it here, and maybe I could like quickly come up with a name right now. Maybe like Money Talks, just for like a quick like brand. And let's say my company is called Money Talks. So yeah, for like just a really, really quick type, if let's say you can't decide on what type of logo you want to make, there's always this like 6 type of logos that I put here that you can refer to. And each logo have their own like pros and cons. So yeah, just like a quick overview, like you can get as simple as a word mark like eBay, Google, where it's just like their name as a logo and that's it. So like what I have for mine, like Money Talks, I would say that's a word mark logo. So simple as that, the font that you like. Of course, you can choose like, different colors, like manipulate it a little bit to like make it work for you, make it a bit unique. But yeah, that's just the basic of it. Like letter form, which is like, it's good for people who has like long names and just want a really like simplified thing to represent it. So like McDonald's, it's quite a long name, but you always known them as their golden arches. So that's always good to summarize it. A pictorial, which is obviously like Apple's one, where it's not necessarily like a word, it's like an image that people know immediately. So I immediately know that this is an apple, and it's quite symbolic if you want to like make it symbolic. Like it could be like, I don't know, like a picture of a dress or like a picture of a t-shirt, and it could be like symbolic for you. Straight away I know that you're a t-shirt or like apparel company if you do that. So yeah, it depends on what direction you want to go to. But yeah, usually pictorial is a bit tough because you really need to like make it so that it's very distinctive, doesn't look like just an ordinary icon, and it's just like unique. So yeah, and the next one is abstract. So this is quite like the pictorial, but of course more abstract. So let's say like CommBank, where you have like the diamond shaped logo, and there's a lot like backstory behind it and why they chose it. And this is Chase Bank, which is like an American bank. And basically it's good if let's say you want to have a very big like good story behind your brand, and also like simplify it to be like a meaningful like abstract logo for you. That would be good. And usually it's good for if let's say you have like a lot of divisions, like let's say like insurance, life insurance, car insurance, house insurance, those kind of stuff. It'll be good for like subsequent like branding, like if you have a lot of like products under you. And yeah, emblem, this is like from a motor company, but a popular one is Starbucks. Starbucks has an emblem logo, and it's very like quite vintage style actually, but it's actually very like efficient in creating a memorable branding, because it's not like the rest where it's more like minimalist, but it's very like unique to your specific like company. So Starbucks, Harvey Davidson, very like memorable. You see them and you kind of know what's up already. And of course you also have like combination where if let's say you want a word mark and a pictorial or an abstract logo, you can basically merge them together and see how things go. Like maybe like in the future you want to take away the word mark or take away the abstract logo or still stick them together. But usually if let's say you're creating a brand to last, it's good to have this like setup, like have an abstract logo and your company name, so that they would always associate either of them to the same company. And if let's say your company gets big in the future, you can always drop one element out. So one good example would be like Nike, where you have the swoosh, and now it's just the swoosh and like everyone knows who they are. So yeah, if you want to like associate yourself with a certain like abstract icon, it's always good to like have that strong start in the beginning, and then you can choose to drop out later on or not. So again, I also have this little like very fun weird shapes for you to try out. If you want to try out an abstract logo, you want to try out like a word like mine, basically I just like type out a logo, and I would say it kind of looks like majority of the logo you have now, very minimalist. I think I would go for it. So it really depends on how simple, how well thought out you want it to be, and also like your intentions for it and for the company. So it's good to like have a read about what is it good for individually. And there's a lot of documentations about this online. And if you're not a designer, no stress, because there's always logo makers online, like from Wix and Canva. So yeah, it's as simple as typing your company name, like, you know, like choosing like little elements to go around it, like a circle, like some kind of icons to go around it, and you're good to go. So yeah, a lot of my friends make like logos from Canva, and they're all set. And it could be like as small as like an Instagram business, or like as big as like, you know, some full-fledged product. But yeah, it just depends on how much investment you're gonna put into it. And obviously like those who are like really serious, been in the business for a while, they would like invest in a designer, and the designer would usually like do it from scratch. So yeah, just depends on how in depth you want to be, what's your resources in terms of like budget. And the good news is that these days a lot of tools are online for you to use for free. So yeah, I think it just depends on how resourceful you are in terms of where you want to go, what you want to achieve in your business. And yeah, so to kind of like zoom out the whole like experience, now you kind of see that we have progressed from like knowing your customers to actually translating it into visual elements. So yeah, obviously I feel like now it's a little bit basic for my liking, but it's a very good like foundation to work up towards. So yeah, basically I think that's, I'm pretty like happy with like, you know, beginning stages kind of thing. And definitely like because we got spent like probably an hour in this workshop making it, and definitely like a branding process would take like longer time. And yeah, basically I also want to like quickly like finish it off. And I understand that, you know, branding is not as easy as just like, you know, I decide this, I decide that. It comes from a lot of inspiration, a lot of reflection. So yeah, it's good to not force it. It's good to, you know, take things as go, find inspiration, find other companies that resonate with you, and yeah, just go on from there. So no stress if you don't have a branding done at this moment in your Figma template, but yeah, it's just a good start to get you thinking about like where your brand want to be. Or if you just want to come up with a simple business, that's all right as well. You don't have to invest a lot of branding, but yeah, just these little elements. And yeah, I'm quite conscious of the time, so I think I'll just like to dedicate this time until 2 p.m. for some Q&A. If you have some specific questions about like design, branding, UI, UX, or even like, you know, looking for a job. Like I came here as an international student, so like if let's say it resonates with you as well, you can, you know, direct those questions to me. And yeah, I think I'll open up the floor now. And I guess like you can just type what kind of like questions you want in the chat, and yeah, we can go from there.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that presentation. I really liked how you broke it down into simple steps, because obviously brand is a big thing, but when you break it down into these like 5 steps, you can really like, it just makes it easier to think of it rather than think, oh, what should I make? So yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, so as Sarah mentioned, we'll now kick off the Q&A session where you can ask any of your questions. You may type it in the chat or even use your mic to ask a question if you're comfortable with that. So yeah, just we'll have a
Ooh,
look at the chat. Okay, so
cool. I think I'll probably start off. Like,
yeah.
should I answer like each question?
Yeah. So the first one is from Brittany, and she asked, one question is, how closely do you work with copywriters at each stage of your process?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let me just stop sharing so I can like see the questions. Okay, yeah, so basically copywriting is obviously a very big thing in terms of like branding and in terms of like UI UX as well. So I feel like it really depends on how, because like I say with branding is so big, and it really depends on what area you want to invest in. And obviously like I kind of see a lot of companies, some of them invest a lot in their copywriting in terms of the way they reply to people, like put up like catchy catchphrase. So it really depends on how you want to distinct yourself in the market through copy or not. But in terms of like copywriting, we do like work very closely. It depends on the clients if they want like copywriting like skills, like, you know, be very strong in copywriting as well. But I would say copywriting is as important as every stage, to be honest, because like in terms of like, you know, it's not only you communicating your brand to the public, but it's also you communicating your brand to your client as well. And I feel like that's really important if you want to like string in a story, you know, string in some emotional like good like decision making in your branding, and a copywriter is really good for that. But if let's say like you don't have a budget for a copywriter, you can always leave it to the last bit where it's more focused towards like PR. So yeah, but usually I like to work with a copywriter at every step. Just like have a design ready, check with them, see if they can improve the copy or like presentation, like reasoning behind it, and then yeah, check back with them every stage. But yeah, that's it.
Nice. And also our next question is from Shirley, and she asks, how did you establish your freelance work?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I feel like there's a lot of ways to establish like freelancing work, but I find that one way that works for me is like through word of mouth and referrals. So yeah, like obviously like if let's say you have a close friend that refer you someone, of course I think you would trust them. So how I establish is that I start off with word of mouth, referrals, like friends of friends. And once you have like a solid portfolio of like, oh, you work with this few companies, you have done this kind of work, it slowly gets easier in terms of like externals looking at your portfolio and be like, okay, this is pretty reputable and like aligned to what I want to achieve. So yeah, I think like it's a process, like not gonna lie, it's quite a process to go through, but I think a good way to start with a way to display your work really well, and that comes to like marketing yourself as well, and then the other people will like just come to you for work. So the marketing bit is also very important. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just had a follow-on question from that actually. So how, like, would you say working for a company is a lot different from working freelance, or is it pretty similar?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, oh, actually it's really different. So I have worked in like corporates, like small teams and like big tech for a while now. And definitely like, it just really depends on what kind of person you are. So if let's say like I'm new to the industry, when I was a fresh grad, I really valued my company experience because that's when I get to learn like not only the design skills, but also like, you know, the soft skills, presentation, like how you communicate your design to the client. Stakeholder management is super important as well. And but obviously like with a company, it gets very easy because you have people helping you and they're your managers that would pitch for you. So I feel like a whole new difference is that being a freelancer and being on your own, you'll get a lot more like client management and stakeholder management than on top of doing the design as well. So it really depends on what kind of person you are. If you're very into your craft, very into your quality of work, and you just like don't like being interrupted by like, you know, having to like make sure your client is okay, like, you know, presentation, then, you know, it'd be good to like have a business partner that complements your skill. Or yeah, just like if you're interested, just work towards that like skills and build up that independence. So yeah, really depends on the person you are. Yeah.
Nice. And then also Shania asks, how many people normally work in a team for branding?
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, I would say like it really depends on firstly the client's budget and how in-depth the work you want it to be. So I had experiences where I work on the branding like alone, like the whole process alone, like one person, one designer, and that's it. But if you really want to go in depth, I had worked in teams where you have a creative strategist, where they touch more on the business side of things, like, you know, like research as well, research assistants, like user experience designer, which touch more on like, yeah, the invisible design bit. And of course like visual designer, and you get like a project manager as well to like manage the client and like, you know, do timelines and stuff. So I would say like from one to like probably like five would be like five would, I would say five is quite a lot already. So like probably one to five. But the more in depth it is, like the more people you get. Yeah.
So if say you're doing like freelance, would you have to do all of those roles at once then?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of work, but it's probably like pretty cool that you get to have that much input, I guess. That's
Yeah,
like your design.
yeah, but yeah, I noticed there's a lot of like on clients' budget as well. Because
Mm.
if let's say like they have budget to hire like a dedicated copywriter, then that's good on you. But yeah, I always tend to like to work towards like my clients' budget to make things easier for them. Yeah.
And then our next question is from Daniel, and he asks, so what would be the next steps in branding slash logo making?
Oh, okay. What would be the next step?
Mm.
Okay. So I would say that a logo is pretty like, would say like towards the end already in a way, because like, but like with the logo, like you have this initial design and it obviously would go through like a process of like, checking back with the client, or if you're independent, then like you'll just check back to yourself whether you're happy with it. But I would say like usually what I like to do is after coming up with this like whole branding, like logo, colors, fonts, I would like to do a bit of like testing. So again, like it depends on how in-depth you want it to be. Testing in terms of like actually getting the target market and seeing what they think about it, or testing in terms of like running a few ads. So if you want to be like excessive, you can have like two different brandings, have a branding, like two different brandings and run ads on your target market, because you get to choose and specify the target market and see which ad works the best. So yeah, so it depends on how you want to do it. But usually I just like to test it out to see whether it really appeals or not. So yeah, running ads would be a good way, but some investment, like in terms of money, have to put into it. Yeah. Mm.
Thank you. And then also Kieran says, amazing presentation, Sarah. Are there any books or courses you recommend for people wanting to learn about UI and branding?
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think. Oh, I feel like, to be honest, like I I've read a few like design books, but it's more towards like the UX bit of it. In terms of like purely UI and branding, like what I like to do is just basically like keep up to date with things. So like, for example, I read like Medium articles and kind of like make sure that like the authors are like, they come from a place where like they have experience talking about this. I'll read like those articles. And there's a very good book about branding that I recommend. It's called The Brand Gap. Not too sure who's the author is, but it's called The Brand Gap. And yeah, and basically like that's a very good book about branding. And basically like in terms of UI, like I said, I think it's just a lot about keeping up to date with the industry and seeing what trends are there, seeing what people resonate with these days. And yeah, lots of like, like experiences like firsthand from like industry leaders and learning from them. Yeah.
We could probably like just Google it and it'll come up. So
Yeah, I read a lot of like Medium articles. So that's how like I stay in touch with like the industry, even though like I don't necessarily am in it as well. Yeah.
yeah, like it moves so fast, I guess, like design, like new trends all the time. So it's good to stay up to date with those kind of articles and sources.
Yeah, definitely. And books are usually good for like the
Yeah.
foundation level, but the keeping up to trends is a lot like online. Yeah.
And then we have another question. We have a question from Jarvis, and he asks, could you give more insights how you do the competitor analysis? What source would you use, and how would you segment the market?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, I think I kind of want to like uh put a little preface there that like maybe like there's some like marketing majors here that would do like a little more in depth, but I could like share about what ways that works for me. So basically, like how I like to see branding is as a scale, as a spectrum. So you have like opposites, like for example, like, okay, modern and traditional. So it's like they're both opposites, but I like to put them in a scale. So I have a line and then modern and traditional. And I have another line that goes like vertically on another value that I'm interested in. Could be like, I don't know, like older generation or younger generation, like a scale as well. So I like to keep things the opposite, and these values are very into the values or aligns to the values where I want to tap into. So let's say if I want to make like a modern-ish brand but still have that traditional like trusting thing, so I'll have that bar, that that little cross thing, and I just like do a lot of research on what's out there, what brands are reputable in the industry, and I plot them among the graph. So like you can imagine it as like a spectrum, like the closer it is to the value, the more it is to the value. But if let's say like, some brands are half modern, half traditional, so I just put them in the middle. Some inclining towards the other side, so I put them in like midway. So yeah, branding is a spectrum, and where you place yourself is a spectrum as well. So yeah, just kind of like doing that quadrant thing and plotting those brands through research, and basically kind of like seeing the landscape and seeing where I should like dominate, like which quadrant. Yeah, so I think like that's just like a designer's way of doing it, like seeing things like quite aesthetically and like visually, but I think like the marketers like use a different one. Yeah.
I really like the candy bar one you had. It's like very visual and it's easy to see like where everything is all placed.
Yeah, definitely. It's very helpful too.
And then we have one final question. Oh wait, actually, yeah, two more final questions. So we have one from Matthew who asks, could you talk a bit about how you got into AR and 3D design?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so yeah, basically like I was fortunate enough to get Google as my first job out of uni. So I went there as kind of like a 1-year contract where I was working as a designer in their innovation lab. So it's called Google Creative Lab. And basically with that innovation lab, they kind of like put they use Google's technology and make it fun for the consumers. So it's part marketing, part experimental as well, where we use like probably like machine learning and we mix it with like museum or like dancing. So that kind of like arts and culture, but still involving technology innovation type thing. And when I joined that year, like AR was the hype. So also like our managers were like, okay, so this whole year of your contract working here, you have to focus about like AR and AR core. And I think like, not sure where everyone's at right now, but I feel like when I graduated, I most that's where it shapes me the most in terms of where I want to head towards. So being like a fresh grad, going to Google and learning about AR, I think that really like shaped my mind a lot in terms of like, okay, then learn about AR. And eventually I really like AR because it's very related to design as well. It's very visual technology. It's very emerging. And I feel like because it's so emerging, that's why I'm drawn into it, because like not sure if anyone feel this, but like when I like, think about design, there's so many designers that are so good in the world, but there's not a lot of like AR people who are like specializing in AR, or there's not rules around AR yet. So that's why it kind of draws to me to like, AR is quite a new industry. Why not I just make some rules as I go with it? So on top of that, it's just like, trying to establish myself in terms of my career. So really love AR, like got into it. And then I got some like publicity and like some recognition from that industry. So yeah, so I feel like AR is quite a big part, and 3D comes along with AR because like it's good to have 3D skills to put into AR. And yeah, basically that's how I got into it, through a experimental program in Google. Yeah.
I didn't know they had that. Is it something you had to apply for, or?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
basically like I'm not sure if they're still doing it right now, but they employ like 5 people internationally every year to be in this department. And it's not a very worldwide department. They only have it in Sydney, London, and New York. So yeah, so it's like, yeah, only 5 people get employed into this every year. So I feel, yeah, it's quite competitive, but it's also like, um, it's also quite nice because they don't really like see you as your level. They see you as your, like, you know, your willingness to learn. So it doesn't matter which level you're in, anyone could apply. Your industry as well, you could be a developer, could be a marketer. Yeah, so yeah, pretty free form actually. Yeah.
I'll probably check that out after this because it sounds like a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then we probably have time for one last question from Shirley. When you were a grad, what were some expectations slash beliefs you had about the industry that you now have a different opinion on?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Like, oh, I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I learned when I started working, to be honest. Like, I feel like uni could only like get you ready to like this much. Like, you know, like foundational knowledge is good for that. But I think like when you go start work, there's a lot more things that you have to learn on the spot. And like, I think that really changed a lot about how you view university, how you view the industry. And one main thing that I had expectations on, which is like, I was like very into design. I love designing. So I'm like, you know, I don't mind going rest of my life, just heads down, design, produce, that's it. But when I go into the industry, a lot of my work now is actually presenting to clients, justifying my design, a lot of stakeholder management, a lot of like, not necessarily it's because of, you know, like there's a lot of factors that you have to like think about when you design as well, like, you know, budgeting, clients' expectations, like your audience. So yeah, I think that really hit me a lot in terms of when I became a grad. So yeah, so it's just like keeping in mind. And I think right now when you are in university, it's good to always keep that in mind so you don't get the shock when you go into the industry. Yeah, and yeah, always like kind of like be open to learn as well, because I understand now it's quite a weird times where things are moving exceptionally fast. Like, you know, the things you'll be learning in uni today could be like different in a few months' time. So I think being always like willing to learn and resilient would be good. Yeah.
So that's probably all we have time for the Q&A. Thanks guys for sending through your questions. It was like a really good range of questions that targeted a lot of areas. So that was really great. And I'd also really like to give a big thanks to Sarah for spending her time preparing and coming here today to teach us about design and branding, and for also sharing us that link to that template that we can all use from now on. And I'm sure that everyone here has managed to take out a few things from today, because I definitely have learned a lot. And Sarah, do you have any final words for our audience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for, yeah, for like coming here on a Saturday and also learning like design with me as well. And yeah, basically we'll be open to kind of like getting your feedback as well if it helps you, because like honestly, like this is a template where you guys are the first few people to trial it. So it's like, it's good to get feedback if it helps you. And yeah, we'll be always willing to connect if, let's say, you need any help in design or just like general tips in terms of like transitioning to the workforce. But all in all, yeah, just really appreciate that you guys are here and engaging as well. It shows, yeah, great like willingness to learn on your part, which obviously like is really good on you. And yeah, really admire you guys to, yeah, be here to learn. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah, for coming out today. And just before we all end the event, if you guys haven't signed the attendance form yet, I'll just relink it into the chat. And we also have Renee coming on to talk about the Holt Prize, which is an event that you all guys might be interested in. You might even be able to use some of the skills that Sarah has taught us today into that event. So Renee, just take it away.
Thank you so much. So hi everyone, my name is Renee. I am the campus director for this year's Holt Prize at UNSW. So just for those who don't know what the Holt Prize is, it is an annual competition run in partnership with the United Nations, and it encourages students around the world to build viable startups that target the Sustainable Development Goals. And the global winner wins $1 million in seed funding for their startup. And that could be one of you guys. So if you're a student interested in entrepreneurship and social impact, I encourage you all to keep listening just for a little bit longer. The timeline for this coming year is on the 17th of December, we'll be having the UNSW competition. So the winner gets to bypass 300,000 people globally and attend the regional summit, which will be held in March to April of next year. So in the past, teams have been flown to a capital city around the world, for example, Boston, London, Shanghai, etc. And they get to compete against teams from other countries in the world. Then those who pass the regional summit in July to August will attend the Global Accelerator Program. This is a 6-week program held in London, and you get access to mentorship, facilities, and workshops, which help you essentially build up your startup idea. And those then move on to the global final, which will be held in New York at the United Nations headquarters. And the winning prize is $1 million in seed funding. So if you weren't inspired before hearing this, I hope you are now. That could quite possibly be you and your team winning $1 million to fund your own company, which is huge. And for the theme of this year's challenge, the Holt Prize returns back to the roots of the human experience, which is food. We're challenging students to transform and reimagine food sustainability. So if you would like to participate in our UNSW competition, our team registrations have opened and are closing this coming Wednesday. So you can scan the QR code here if you're interested, and it'll take you to our Facebook page. If you don't have a team, that's also fine. You can also register individually and we will match you with others as well. And just to note, you don't need an idea to register your team yet. We will be running a number of ideation workshops and case cracks to help you guys formulate your pitches for the UNSW competition. So please don't let that get in the way of registering a team. And just a few further details. It'll be held on the 17th of December online after our final exam period. This is the UNSW Comp. And you're just required 3 to 4 people per team and a 5-minute pitch on your business idea that addresses the Food for Good challenge. And the winner from UNSW gets the opportunity to compete against other countries at the regional summit and is one step closer to winning $1 million. So that's all from me. I hope you guys are interested. Feel free to scan the QR code here and I'll hand it back over to DigiSoc. Thank you so much. Oh, you're muted, by the way.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes our event today. Once again, thank you, Sarah, and everyone for coming out on this Saturday. And yes, I hope everyone has a very good weekend.